Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are facing one of the most alarming and dangerous moments in modern history, as tensions between the United States and China have reached a point where many analysts fear the world is standing on the very edge of World War III. This unfolding crisis has captured the attention of every nation, rattled markets, and placed ordinary people in a state of growing anxiety. To understand the gravity of this situation, we need to break down what is happening on multiple levels, examining how it looks on the outside, what is taking place behind closed doors, how both nations are performing militarily and strategically, what safeguards exist to prevent disaster, how each side presents its unique strengths, the price that humanity may pay if conflict erupts, and what this all means for the future of the world. On the surface, the exterior view of this confrontation is massive and intimidating. Naval fleets from both the United States and China are patrolling contested waters of the South China Sea. Aircraft carriers, advanced destroyers, and nuclear submarines are visible symbols of power. Each new maneuver is reported instantly by global media and amplified through satellite imagery and social networks. Fighter jets streak across the skies above the Pacific, rehearsing for potential battles. This exterior landscape is one of constant military exercises, missile tests, and heavily armed patrols that project dominance while simultaneously pushing both sides closer to an accident or escalation. From an external viewpoint, the display of power is designed to deter, but it also conveys how fragile the balance has become because every move risks misinterpretation by the other side. Looking at the interior side, the reality is more complex and intense, though less visible. Inside government offices, leaders are holding emergency strategy sessions, military generals are briefing civilian leaders with worst-case scenarios, while intelligence agencies scramble to intercept communications and assess the intentions of the other power. Diplomats are using private channels in desperate attempts to keep communication open and avoid total breakdown. In these interior discussions, the tone is serious and urgent. Unlike the grand displays outside, the conversations are filled with fear, hesitation, and rapid calculations about potential losses. There is no glamour or spectacle here, only the harsh reality that one misstep could trigger consequences far beyond anyone's control. The interior story is shorter and quieter compared to the booming exterior shows of strength, but it is no less important because decisions made inside these rooms will determine whether the world sees peace or catastrophe. In terms of performance, both the United States and China are bringing their full military and technological strength into play. The United States demonstrates its unmatched global reach by deploying carrier strike groups and bomber aircraft that can operate thousands of miles away from American shores. Its advanced F-35 stealth fighters, missile defense systems, and networked satellite capabilities allow it to fight across multiple domains. Cyber defense and offense remain core strengths with the ability to disrupt adversary communication and critical infrastructure. China, however, is not standing idle. In recent years, it has invested heavily in hypersonic missile programs capable of traveling faster than any existing defense system can intercept. Its artificial islands in the South China Sea are now armed with radar systems, missile launchers, and airstrips that give it forward bases for regional dominance. China's cyber warfare units are some of the most aggressive in the world, and its growing fleet of modern destroyers and submarines rivals those of established naval powers. Performance in this standoff is measured not only by raw firepower but by technological sophistication, logistics, endurance, and the ability to project influence across contested regions. Both nations are proving they can operate at a level that threatens global stability. Safety features in this tense situation exist, but they are dangerously fragile. The world depends on hotlines between Washington and Beijing to avoid misunderstandings. International treaties and agreements are meant to prevent certain categories of weapon deployment, but many of those agreements are weakening as distrust grows. The United Nations consistently calls for restraint, yet often finds itself unable to enforce meaningful measures. Back-channel diplomacy provides some hope, but cyber operations and misinformation campaigns undermine confidence in communication. The very nature of modern warfare, where a single cyber attack can disable power grids or communication satellites, means accidents are easier to trigger and harder to contain. Safety features that once reassured the global community now seem stretched to their limits. The chance of miscalculation is higher than ever, and that fragility is what makes this situation so perilous. Unique selling points in this confrontation highlight how each side frames its actions not just to the world but also to its own citizens. The United States presents itself as the defender of democratic allies, freedom of navigation, and international law. Its unique point is the ability to lead coalitions and reassure smaller nations that it can protect them from coercion. China's unique selling point lies in its claim of sovereignty and its narrative of reversing centuries of humiliation by foreign powers. It emphasizes control over regional waters as essential to its national destiny. Domestically, China portrays its rise as unstoppable and presents itself as the rightful leader of a new multipolar world order. Both sides are not only fighting for military superiority, but also for global perception, political legitimacy, and ideological influence. These selling points define how their actions are received by allies, rivals, and citizens alike. The price of this confrontation is already enormous even without shots being fired. Economically, markets across the globe react with volatility every time tensions spike. Trade routes that carry trillions of dollars in goods each year are under threat, raising costs for businesses and consumers worldwide. Energy prices surge as shipping lanes face potential disruption. Socially, people around the world feel a rising sense of uncertainty. Families worry about their children's future while communities debate whether military service or civil defense could become necessary. Politically, the international order itself is being shaken. Alliances are tested, neutral nations are pressured to choose sides, and global institutions are weakened. If this confrontation escalates into actual conflict, the price will be catastrophic. Beyond economic devastation, the human cost would be measured in millions of lives. Massive refugee flows, collapsed governments, and a shattered global environment. The destruction could set back human progress for generations. The longer this standoff continues, the more pressure it exerts on the world system. Smaller nations in Asia find themselves caught in the middle, forced to choose whether to align with the United States or accommodate China's growing influence. European nations worry that if the Pacific erupts in war, their own security arrangements could collapse, dragging NATO into direct confrontation. Russia observes closely, sometimes quietly supporting China while also keeping its own strategic interests in mind. Countries in Africa and South America fear being cut off from essential trade or becoming proxy battlegrounds. The ripple effects are global because the United States and China are not just two militaries but the largest economies and key players in nearly every international institution. Another critical factor is technology. Modern warfare is not only about ships, planes, and tanks, but also about information dominance. Satellites, cyber networks, artificial intelligence, and electronic warfare will play decisive roles in any conflict. The United States has decades of experience operating advanced satellite constellations and global surveillance systems. China has rapidly advanced in this field, launching its own satellites and experimenting with anti-satellite weapons designed to blind opponents. The danger is that once these systems are attacked, escalation becomes nearly unstoppable because disabling satellites or communication networks can be interpreted as preparation for nuclear strikes. Thus, technology becomes both a weapon and a trigger. In examining this crisis, we must also understand the psychological and cultural elements. Both American and Chinese societies are deeply patriotic with powerful narratives about their place in the world. For the United States, defending allies and preserving the liberal world order is part of its identity. For China, reclaiming its place as a dominant power in Asia is seen as a historic mission. These cultural motivations add fuel to the confrontation because they make compromise politically risky. Leaders risk losing credibility at home if they appear weak. Therefore, nationalist pressures make de-escalation difficult even when leaders may privately desire it. Economically, the strain is visible in disrupted supply chains, weakened stock markets, and rising inflation. Businesses are reconsidering their dependence on Chinese manufacturing or American technology. Investment flows are being redirected as uncertainty makes long-term planning difficult. The global economy is so interconnected that even nations far removed from the conflict zone face consequences. This is part of the hidden price, the gradual erosion of prosperity and stability long before any actual war begins. The conclusion of this unfolding drama is not yet written. What remains clear is that the world stands at a crossroads more dangerous than any since the Cold War. Unlike previous rivalries, however, the stakes are magnified by globalization, technology, and climate challenges that already threaten humanity. A direct war between the United States and China would not only devastate nations involved but could collapse the entire international system. The hope lies in diplomacy, communication, and the recognition by leaders that no amount of power or pride is worth the destruction of civilization. The world watches anxiously, hoping that common sense will prevail before the cost becomes unbearable. Until then, humanity remains on edge, balanced between peace and the unthinkable.